Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 390, and today we're doing battle with the Altar of Unity. And so, before we dive into talking about the Altar of Unity, Riot has announced that they will be nerfing Concurrent Timelines in Eternal back up to 2 mana. I don't think that hotfix has hit the servers yet, at least as we're recording this video, so we may run into some people still running that 1 mana timelines, but by the time this video is released, I believe that patch should be into effect, and you all will have the slightly weaker version of timelines to be contending with. And so today, we're really going to be focusing in on Altar of Unity. This was a card released in the 4.5 variety patch, and we haven't given it a shot out here in Eternal. And so I feel like this is a very good follow-up to the Give It All video that we did in the previous battles with Bust, in the fact that what happens if you don't actually draw your Altar of Unity. And so as we were playing the previous video, playing the Give It All deck, our deck really fell apart, and it didn't really do anything if we didn't actually draw the namesake card. I am pretty sure we won all the games we drew Give It All, but we were really struggling to win in the games that we didn't. And so looking at the Altar of Unity style of deck, I was really wanting to put this into a shell to where the shell can kind of just work. The shell can kind of function, and then if we do actually draw the Altar of Unity, we can really pop off with it. Or more ideally, in the sense to me, we just don't need it in the early game. And so with the previous deck, with the Give It All, we're really trying to play it on turn 3 or turn 4 or so. With our deck, if we don't play the Altar of Unity until turn 5 or turn 6, it's hopefully not that big of a deal. And so that's why I've kind of led in with the Daybreak shell. We have this really powerful early game collection of units with the Solari Soldier, the Shieldbearer, and the Sunhawk. Very good at just stalling the game and stalling the board until we can get our 4 mana landmark onto the board. We have the Leona and the Sun Guardian and Rahvun rounding out the Daybreak package, giving us this nice defensive wall, the bulwark of light, if you will, to stand behind as we look to develop the Altar of Unity. Then once we're able to get the altar on board, there's a handful of cards we have in our deck that really can make it shine. And so Leona is not what I'm talking about. She does become a 5/5 with the altar on the board, but as we play cards like Silverwing Vanguard, these will become 4/4 challengers. So we play the 4 mana unit, we get the 2 4/4 challengers. Mahiri comes onto board as the 5/5, so it's already empowered and ready to go. And then the Lawkeeper will upgrade to a 6/7, which will then stun all of the enemy units with 5 or less attack. And so these are the real high-powered plays that we're looking to activate with the Altar of Unity. Ideally, it's going to grow some of these big units, and then that overwhelming stat boost will be enough to carry us over the edge. Outside of these combat-based cards, we do have a handful of spells in here. The Single Combat and Sunburst is a pretty standard removal package. The Pale Cascade is a fantastic combat trick, but I don't want to stack on too many combat tricks because our units are already pretty big as it is. And then the classic finisher, if you will, in these Leona-style decks is the Champion Strength. And so if we do build up these big boards of defensive units but aren't able to crash in for those final points of damage, ideally the Champion Strength will give us a way to come in and finish off the game. And so that's the deck. That's what we're doing battle with today. Let's go on, jump on in, see if we can't find ourselves some good games. Making our way through, right? We're still in that top 100 masters on our main account, but we were in iron in the previous video, fighting our way through bronze in this one. We'll get there soon enough, you know? We'll get there soon enough. And all right, up to battle against Ekko Zilean. This tends to be the landmark printer style deck, if you will, the time bomb based deck, and not really based as much onto Ekko as you would see with something like Ekko Jinx, but we'll have to wait and see what opponent presents to us. And so with this hand, you know, reasonable enough start. The big problem to me for Daybreak these days is the nerf that the Sun Guardian took. Hopefully we'll get a chance to kind of showcase that just a little bit as well. But as we were kind of in this space to where the 3 power and the 3 attack on units is so incredibly important. The Sun Guardian now being a 3/3 on the first turn, it comes down and trades with a lot of 2-drops, even trades with a lot of 1-drops in the current format. And it's been the real breaking point to me in terms of Daybreak. I think Leona nerfing up to 5 activations instead of 4 was probably enough, but We'll see if our 3/3 Sun Guardian can actually do anything here. Might need a little bit of time to build up before he's combat ready. All right. Getting that damage in. Good job, Sun Guardian. Defending us well. All right, the altar has come in. We could look to go ahead and play it. It does work with the Sun Guardian, making it a 3/3 and then turning it into a 4/4. And so we can get those stats that we've been hurting for in one way or another. But I'm going to shut down this Ekko attack. No reason to let him attack and generate the time tricks on our board like this. Really like to confront this Ekko if we can, and so we can get our Broadwing in. We can add the other Sun Guardian next turn. Look to challenge down the Ekko. Continue to build up this nice board. All the altars turning up. All right, all right. Let's see. So we got a handful of good combats just with the natural units. We'll put our 1 health Broadwing in front of the cat. We'll try and hook in Ekko, get the kill there. I doubt we'll get the Ekko kill. It's very easy to have a Mystic Shot or a Quicksand or a -2 attack scry kind of thing, and so I don't think it's going to be successful often, but if we get to take this Ekko off of the board, it's such an incredibly powerful attack that I think it's worth it. Alright, so we got the flip. So he's going to at least get a time trick for his efforts. We'll see if he managed to find a removal. He's got the double Quicksand. Not bad, not bad. Big takedown on our crew over here. Alright, Ekko's going to start doing Ekko things.
Oh, right. I remember this.
But I'm not nearly as scared of this Ekko, I think. When you see the Ekko Jinx, there's a lot of high-powered plays that can come about that don't involve Ekko, and I kind of feel like this one just isn't as scary. But do we get to present the lethal on this next turn? So we'll play the Solari Shieldbearer first, activate the Daybreaks on our Sun Guardians. I'm going to follow up with the Altar of Unity. And then I'm looking to continue on with the Daybreaks. And so we'll have 7 mana to start with next turn, so we can add in the Solari Soldier, take the Daybreak, and then we can play the Lawkeeper, try and get the stun across the entirety of the opponent's team. And so they may find themselves in a spot to where they can Rite of Negation the playability off of the Lawkeeper, right? But we'll ideally just have enough stats to win the game, even if that's the case with what happens. Alright, I don't think we want to Sunburst, so let's add in the Soldier, get those Daybreak activations, give the opponent a chance to spend a little bit of mana. They say, no thank you, but here comes the Lawkeeper. I guess we could have actually overwritten the Altar to Unity since we have a second one in hand. Maybe that would have been a little bit more effective here. We'll have to see. Opponent can also do some neat stuff like Quicksand the Lawkeeper, right? Quicksand it down to 2 attack, and then since none of his units have less than 2 attack, it won't get any stuns, but these iterative improvements don't really feel like what I think you want to be doing here. And so you might get this big attack in successfully. All right. That's enough for the victory. GG. Good stuff when it all comes together in the first game. That's what I like to see. So well done, deck. You did it. You stalled the board. You got a lot to talk about in there. You got the Lawkeeper down on the game number 1. Feels good. Feels good. All right, next battle up against Katarina Nora. This is the kind of space to where it's nice having those champion strengths in your deck, give you that high-powered way to come in and close out the game, even if the opponent has loaded up the board with a bunch of Nora units. All right, Tybalak thing down on the first turn. Good stuff happening with this Solari Soldier. If opponent starts with Nora next turn, we have the fairly free single combat to come in and try and take it down.
Cup of tea? Fine by me.
No, thank you. Feels pretty good when you get to single combat a unit like Annie. I had to stop and double check that opponent wasn't playing Annie, but it always feels pretty good to be able to do that. All right, here's big combo number 2. It's a little more worrisome with our big combo as we're up against a Nora deck. They're going to have disintegrates and the like that can potentially take down our bigger plays, but you know, we'll see what comes of that. Get our Altar of Unity down and start making a bunch of 2-3 formidable Broadwings, right? That's what you need. It would have actually been relevant in that previous game, right? If we had a 2-3 Broadwing on the board as the opponent quicksanded away the formidable, but on its own, it's not a unit that's particularly excited to be running into the altar. Alright, so I'm going to play it a little bit slower this turn. I'm going to go in with the 2 Broadwings for the round. I'd like to contest this Nora, and so I'm going to add the Broadwing. We'll add a second Broadwing. If opponent starts playing removal spells, then we'll be able to try and drop single combats onto Nora. It just feels like if we go for the Mahira here, then they're just going to have too much opportunity to like disintegrate down the single unit. Alright, let's see if that second single combat gets the job done. Sure does. Calling Strike. Get the Calling Strike coming in as we're playing our Altar of Unity cards. I don't want to see that. Don't want to see that.
You dropped something. I dropped everything.
Alright, somebody expensive's getting discarded here. Oh, it's Mahari. That was the one we were wanting to hang on to, just to help ensure that we get our sweet combos going. And Nora? God, it's the third one. All right, I guess you get the portals. Only so much you can do. So with this, I added the Rahvun in. I was thinking with this next turn we would look to maybe play the Sunhawk into Leona. It just gives us that opportunity to take the double Daybreak if we want. I don't think we're going to be playing it here. We'll just lead in with the Sunhawk and then follow up with the Vanguard. That's going to be the meatiest board that we can have. Not real stoked about sending our units like Rahvun into combat and then risking him just dying to, say, like a Disintegrate plus a Boom Baboon block. That's not really ideal for us. But we've got all these birds ready to go. Take our values where we can get them. We should have hooked in the Grumble Slug. That was a little sloppy. I saw Tayari as just the strongest unit remaining on the board, but now that we're kind of bouncing the Sunhawk off the Grumble Slug, it's not a very good turn. Alright, opponent's about to start popping. They're gonna get access to their Tybelak next turn. Katarina coming down. We can't stun Katarina off of the board. Bit of a bummer. Ooh, maybe we can Sunburst her, though.
To the point.
Nope. Sure can't.
Gaze into the light.
Alright, well, let's see if a second Disintegrate comes in. Or Rahvun. I guess being at 1 health, he doesn't have too much health behind him anyways, but
They'll never know what killed them. Chosen of the sun.
Her light rules the
I am the bulwark against darkness.
let's get our friends in. The Bulwark against Darkness is here. I'd like to play this Sunburst onto Katarina if she comes back down. He's very incentivized to add Katarina back to the board, given that we have this 1-mana Rahvun just hanging out. Let's see what kind of angle they take.
Let the bloodshed begin.
Alright, she's back. Ready to try and ace our Rahvun, but we do at least get the additional Daybreak. Get another stun out here as well, and so our Leona's ready to pop off. Now, the thing that's awkward now is that we've lost our Rahvun, and so if we come in and just play the Sunhawk and take the 2 stuns next turn and he follows up with Tybalak, we're going to be a little bit behind. We're at that point to where we really just kind of need to fill out the board and hope for a champion strength, but I feel like as the game has drug on this far, opponent just has too many value options here to shut us down. Well, that's our path to victory right there with the morning light coming in. We'll see how deep we can get. So we'll get the double stuns, the Sunhawk stun along with the Leona stun, and then we can look to morning light the Sunhawk again, get 2 more stuns. So if opponents say like drops Tybalak, be a little bit more challenging for them to fill out the board. I don't think we can go for it anymore. We still have this good hook into the Lord Broadmain with Leona, but we're pretty far away from a lethal this turn. Pretty tough. They hitting all of those Noras and the Portal Paloozas and stuff. They hit like 3 or 4 portals this turn. It's a lot for us to have to try and blast through. Sure. Alright, GG. Nice efforts, Leona. Not a good matchup for you. Alright, on to the next one. So man, I had this turn up over the weekend. Do you all remember back during COVID? And the thing that you would do is like, okay, the lockdowns are over, you're allowed to have like birthday parties and shit now. And so you'd have the birthday party, you get the cake, you cut out a slice of the cake, you put the candle on it, and then you give that to the kid. And you say, all right, spit all your germs all over this single piece of cake. I'm not getting your COVID germs in my mouth as you're out here busy just spitting all over this piece of dessert. And I loved it. I thought, like, I'd never thought of that before. That never crossed my mind. I'd never been like, wow, what a good idea this is, just to eliminate all these mouth germs getting blown all over the cake. And apparently we've forgotten about that. And so it's a bit of a bummer, man. Like, that's not that's not a thing that people do anymore, apparently. And so I went to a birthday party this weekend. The cake is brought out. I'm like, fuck yeah, this is awesome. I love cake. The candles go on. I'm like, we're forgetting to do a little bit of something, and then the kid just blows mouth germs all over the cake. It's like, fuck. I'm still gonna eat it, but that was like such a good life decision that was made across the entirety of the world. We're gonna cut that slice of cake out so you don't get your nasty germs all over it, and then we forgot. we forgot how good things could be. So might make it my life mission to make sure that kind of thing comes back. Alright, though. Back to the game at hand. We got our altar on board. We're ready to come in with our Mahiri. It was a pretty safe space to just take all the damage from this combat cook, as we can now get our big, elusive, overwhelming life stealer coming in for the attacks. The card that we were going to be particularly worried about here was the thermogenic beam that the opponent just discarded. And so I'm kind of curious what's about to happen to us here, given that opponent made the active decision to not kill our Mahira. And so everything we have is about to start just getting boosted turn after turn after turn. That was very odd to me. That was like the one card that I was like, okay, they can either hit us with Buried in Ice or they can hit us with the beam. And to see the beam just go away, it's kind of wild. But things are still going okay. Let's add in the other Mahira. Maybe we'll just win the game next turn. Nothing wrong with that. So he did play Reggie. We have a real collection of cards to be, physically scared about next turn. And so hopefully this Mahira plan will be enough to come in and finish out the game. We can safely fall to 10. Where this is a little scary is, say we make this attack and then opponent has Harsh Winds, and then they're able to Buried in Ice our units on the following turn. That's not good for us, and so we'll see if we can fight through this round. The three sisters coming in, okay. with a flash freeze. Sure. So we only crash for 5, but we get a really healthy health stat, and then we do have the Lawkeeper in hand, so if opponent tries to make a Buried in Ice play on us, we can still stun his whole board, so we probably won't just die. That's always a preferable outcome. Just don't die. And so we'll see if that's what comes about.
Daylight everlasting.
Oh, we got a kitty wanting to hang out. Come on, girl. It's been a while. The kitties haven't been hanging out during the videos here recently, and so come on. You wanna spend time with us? We can get you on the internet. Oh, we gotta push a button. Here we go. Says, what up, everybody? Glad to be here. Glad to hang out. Good stuff. Everybody on the internet wants to see a cat, so good deal. So, all right, let's see how this plays out. Exactly how we kind of expected it right there. Now we'll bring in the Lawkeeper, get the stun across the opposing team. We're not going to be able to crash in for damage next turn is kind of the downside, but it's better than being dead. I'm curious if we shouldn't have just gone. Like, I got really excited about dropping the the Lawkeeper here. I'm curious if that wouldn't have been a little better just playing a Solari Sunhawk, so we could have stunned the combat cook, blocked the other combat cook, then we're only looking at 6 damage. So that would have been a possibility, but, you know, nothing wrong with getting excited. That's what we're here for. So let's see if we can't turn this around a little bit. I'm going to add this big-ass Solari Sunhawk to the board. We might as well just overwrite the Altar to Unity now, right? I mean, our board is huge. These units are gigantic. They have all of these bonus stats from the Mahari. I don't think that we're going to get a lot of real action out of these units the rest of the way. So, feel pretty good about that. Alright, we'll add in the Broadwing. We'll add in the Solari Soldier. Might as well just add the second altar now, right? We get to draw a unit off of it. Nothing wrong with drawing cards.
Discipline and conviction. Devotion to battle.
Alright, now I'm just going to hook the It That Stares out of combat. His blocks on the rest of our units all suck. He has to block our 2 7-power units or he just loses the game, and the Clockling isn't anywhere near threatening lethal, so I think that's okay. I'm not intimidated by your 8/8.
Trolls are going to war!
Alright, you get your Trundle. We got our 8/10 Leona ready to party. Let's see what we can do. Let's see. So I think it's a fair question as to whether or not we want to worry about a second Buried in Ice. We can generate a pretty big board next round. Not entirely certain if that's something we want to go for or not. But let's get this Vi off of the board. I'm okay with that. Keep her from flipping. Let our Leona stand and start dropping Sunhawks. We gotta have to remember the cards in our hand aren't as strong as they used to be with all of our Maharis being dead. Rahvun, you are the perfect draw, my friend. So we should be pretty safe here. If opponent doesn't have to have Buried in Ice, but they have to have a lot. Like, Buried in Ice is going to be their main way out of this. But now that we have Rahvun along with the double Sunhawks in hand, that goes a long way in terms of letting us get a big attack in for the turn. So we'll see. We'll see.
The sun's splendor reveals.
2 stuns here. You gotta have that second Buried in Ice, my friend. He's gonna have it, isn't he? Okay, Hex Obliterator. Can we still lethal this round? And so we can hook the Ice Pillar with a bad unit. We can hook something else with Leona, but then he still gets a block onto the Lawkeeper. I think we're gonna be short. See if we can at least find a juicy target for our hooks, though. Not particularly juicy.
I help when I can. Shut up when I can.
Not particularly.
Answer to me.
All right, maybe next time. Maybe next turn. Opponent's got to put at least one block in. He has this reasonable block onto the bird with Reggie. No real surprises there. He's coming after Leona with just damage. Interesting. She's gonna lose. She's not gonna be vulnerable next turn since the ice pillar's gone. Oh, the bird's ready to party. Okay, okay, maybe that'll get us there. Opponent's got a million cards in hand. That's okay. That's just that they really need that buried in ice. No,
That's not
Venus. I didn't want to discard our bird. That's a bummer, man. That's a bummer.
Unyielding light. Glorious light rains down.
Well, still got some good opportunities here.
Beagle shows them where their spells can help.
All right, coming at us hard with the elusive. You can do it, my dude. You can do it. All right, squad. What you got for us this turn? Broadwing, not exactly what we're looking for, but it may help get the job done. So here's 2 more stuns. Still, we gotta. It's tough, and we have our big units that just don't deal any damage. This is why we're out here playing cards like Champion Strength, and why we go on and on and on and on about these formats in terms of needing to elusive, overwhelm, or rally. We just can't do fuck all on this board. That's not a Champion Strength.
Devotion through battle.
All right, well, we'll just keep on grounding, I guess. This is just not good for us. This is terrible. Like, I know opponents probably a little upset they haven't drawn, or I guess you should more likely say they just haven't played a concurrent timelines up to this point. But again, elusive, overwhelm, rallies. We gave up our stun, which was a bit painful. Poor Lawkeeper. we should have fought against that buried in ice a little better. All right, there's the Champion Strength. I believe in you, squad. I believe in you.
My faith protects
Let's go ahead and take the stun. I'd like to see opponents spend a bunch of mana here on something that doesn't matter. And so we'll see if we get the opportunity to attack in with the big stat line. The second pillar.
Always cold in the Freljord.
What you got? Mind Splitter.
We will not suffer unbelievers.
They will not escape punishment.
It's going to be the second buried in ice. Okay, that'll do it. And so that's tough. I got really excited about the about making the big Lawkeeper play, and I think that was where we messed that one up. I think we would have been okay on that turn. It's like, oh shit, there's a big board full of units. We better we better just stun everything, and I think that was a mistake. I'm pretty certain if we just played a Sunhawk, right, and then canceled his 2 5-attack units, we would have taken like 7 damage, and then we probably could have won the game on the next turn with the Lawkeeper. Next battle. We played the timelines did get me in a space I wanted to talk about. The hotfix came out. I wasn't paying attention in that game. I don't know if it was a space to where it cost 1 or 2. It probably cost 1 at this point, but I feel like the community reaction was just abysmal this week. And so if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, here, hang on. We're playing against Samira. We can probably hang on to the altar. This is tough in the sense that like they have access to Aftershock and can just blow up the altar. All right, let's stick to our deck's game plan, I guess. But basically what went down was the Mastering Runeterra Eternal event happened. two of the people in the top four were playing triple Timelines decks, and so they'd play the Trundle version, they would play the Bandle City PNZ version with no champions, and then they're playing the Jacks of I version. Two people did that. The eventual winner did it, and those two people played against each other in the semifinals for what was apparently a load of fun of a match. I didn't get to see it, but it was there. And so that happened, and then I'm not entirely certain what happened with the ABG, the Always Been Gaming tournament that happened the next day. I feel like Timelines was much more popular, but it wasn't to a degree to where, like, we just saw with Samira, to where 8 of the top 8 decks were all like playing Samira decks, which to me is much more egregious than what the Timelines was doing. And we've ran into these spots before. I know at Worlds, people like What Am I brought triple champion strength decks, as we were at some seasonals past. People would bring triple
Clad in shining sunlight.
powder pandemonium decks, and it's never been like that egregious in terms of people bringing like 3 decimate decks to a specific event. And I do concede that Concurrent Timelines was powerful, and I do concede that it probably needed a nerf, but I think it's unfortunate that, you know, something happens, and I don't know if it's just because I'm fucking old and I'm not, you know, hip with the kids and how they just like go on and drop all their hot takes immediately and call it a day. Like, I'm not certain if that's just the way that the kind of communication went, but it feels like everyone just sees like, oh, this happened, I didn't win in the event, and now like it's time to throw off a massive bitch fest. And that's what it really kind of struck me as happening over the course of the event, was like, people didn't win, they lost to the Timelines. Timelines is inherently a fairly high risk, high reward kind of play, and if you like draw it in your opener, your win rate goes up. If you don't draw it in your opener, your win rate goes down considerably. And so it's like, I get all of that, but the thing that ultimately worries me in these kind of situations is the format's been out for 2 weeks, and people throw a giant shit fit, and then Riot feels kind of compelled to put out a hotfix, which they did, you know, today. And oh shit! I was talking. We didn't play the altar. Oops. But I hope that that's not like the precedent that gets set going forward and into the future, as to where you know, the chosen few at the top of the ranks get into battle. They don't have success for whatever reason, or a deck is a bit off balance, and so they start bitching, and then Riot is now ultimately required to make a response. And then what happens if they don't make a response, right? What's that kind of break point to where the game is so broken that action needs to be taken? And did we really eclipse that over the weekend, after being in this like month-long cycle of Seraphine, or not Seraphine, the month-long cycle of like Samira being quite ridiculous? And so I think it's a bit of a bummer to have it come forth as it did. I think Riot's been doing spectacular in terms of the monthly patch cadence and knowing what to expect. Now that there's multiple formats out there, even if you don't like the state of Concurrent Timelines in the game, then go play Standard, right? You have a lot of options. And I get, for like the 9 people that are trying to make a living playing Legends of Runeterra, that's like kind of a hard take for them to swallow, but you know, there's a lot of options for the vast majority of the players in the game. And so I think kind of catering to those few people was ultimately a bit of a mistake, in my opinion. And so we'll see. We'll see how they handle these situations in the future. I was kind of okay with there being an action taken, given that this was the first month, the first, you know, like real data gathering point of Eternal being out there. But I really hope that Riot doesn't do this kind of stuff in the months after this one. All right, the Plaza Guardians coming at us, though. We'll focus in a little more on this one. Hopefully we don't Hopefully we don't just skip over any of our turns now and give our opponents the free time walks, but no guarantees, no guarantees. I was on a tangent. This would be pretty sweet in this spot if Leona was already flipped, so there is some definite downside to her not flipping until 5, but would have also been a little different if we just didn't just skip turn 4. Happens. It happens, you know. Are we in a spot where we can still just kind of come out and win this game? We've got this large collection of challengers out here ready to drop big damage onto the board. The Ravenous Flock onto Leona isn't really that big of a deal, so opponent only has 1 card in hand now. Let's continue adding dudes.
We will not suffer unbelievers.
They will not escape punishment.
Scorching light.
Game says we're 1 short. Well, that's what happens when you skip your turn 4. I think we're still in pretty decent shape here with opponent only having 1 card. We can block these Plaza Guardians if we feel the need. And then if we can get back to our attack token, we might be in pretty good shape. LOL, opponent hit a 0-3. Probably not exactly what they were hoping for. Oh my gosh, they are hitting all the portals though. Oh my goodness. It's an interesting attack.
You cannot sway me.
Alright, so we got to get a couple of blocks out here in front of this stuff. I think 8's probably a fairly safe space to fall to. We are going to get the stun next turn with the Solari Sunhawk. I think we're close.
My faith protects me.
He's out of portals now, right? That nonsense is over? And a sunburst. Okay. Oh boy, a song spinner. That was a pretty good draw for the round. At least Seraphine's not on the board anymore, but who knows what the hell we'll have to deal with at this point. Lots of nonsense, I'm sure. Just as soon as you think the game is within grasp, the song spinner has to come in. Thought about dropping something. I'm pretty certain we want to sunburst this Plaza Guardian before combat here. Like the cards that opponent has that would mostly worry me in this space are going to be things that he's going to be able to play in the middle of combat, right? He just picked up 3 spells off of the song spinner, and so if he's able to come in and play things like the flash freeze of some sort, a steel, whatever the cards come off of the 2-cost thing, Steel Tempest coming in, things like that. All right, he's got 2 blockers. He needs to have 2 cards to stop 2 units, or he needs to gain a handful of health. Hasn't conceded just yet, so we might not be in the clear. Already found a unit and a Mystic Shot. Whew, the battles continue. I don't know, fam. I don't know if we're gonna get that last point of damage in. We can take the hit from one of these, but this is pretty scary at this point. Rahvun was a big draw. So I think we want to fall to 2. It's scary against a deck that plays Mystic Shots. They've already played 1 at this point. So maybe we're safe in that sense. Rahvun's going to come in and generate a card. The Twilight Protector. Probably want to just go ahead and open... Well, maybe the Daybreak will be relevant next turn. It does give the opponent a chance to play 2 cards here instead of just 1. But lets our units get a couple of extra stats. All right. able to carry through at the end. It's tough. It's tough. We gave up an entire turn and we're still able to win the game. And so go us in that sense. And all right, this is going to be our last game. I've kind of lost track of time with this one. I've had to start and stop the video a few times. I know we played a few long ones along the way, but I feel like we've really kind of covered our bases with what this deck is capable of doing in terms of getting the altar down, growing the birds, getting it down, growing the Maharis, using the Daybreaks as a means to stall until we can get that stuff on board, and then having that champion strength to come in and close out the games. And so, like what's happening there. And cool, we get to play against Seraphine. And so this is it's interesting in the sense that another reason as to why I'm not, really hype about the immediate nerf to concurrent timelines is they didn't really give the meta a chance to develop. And I know that there's like a lot of memeage running around in terms of the only decks that the concurrent timelines deck is at a negative win rate to or other timelines decks, and it's like the stats right now are in such like a hot mess. It's really tough to tell how much merit really applies to that, as you have someone like Grandpa Roji come out and have a 90% win rate across 50 games with Action Varus, and then you would go and pick it up, or I go and pick it up. I'm not going to carry anywhere near a 90% win rate. I'm going to carry like a 50-50 at best, because I'm not really familiar with playing that style of deck. And so what happens is, as the really good players, kind of innovate, they have the higher win rates, and then as the masses pick up the decks, the win rates go down. And so that's happened always across the course of the game. And even more so when it comes to looking at Eternal stats, because so much of Eternal is tied in to the format starting with everyone being in Iron. And so we're on our secondary account here, we're in Bronze. We've played against 2 of the 5 opponents that have a Masters ranking in Standard according to the deck tracker. And so, it's not to trash on all of our opponents, but they're probably at not that same space of skill quality that you would find if the meta had kind of evolved naturally. And so it feels like in large part a lot of what has happened has just been a kind of like knee-jerk reaction. And I'm like, the thing that really kind of surprises me is the people that I feel like would really benefit from having a concurrent timelines meta, in the sense that concurrent timelines is a curve deck at its best, and if you can't assemble a deck to just beat a curve deck, then you should be like really upset with yourself in terms of the format. To me, given that those tend to be the kind of easiest decks to counteract. Like if you want to beat elites, you can beat elites. You just really kind of ramp up your kind of like reactiveness, and you get to move into playing very defensive things like the Ruination, and you'll beat elites if you really want to do so. And I feel like that space wasn't really explored. Everyone just they said, oh, it's 2023. As soon as something happens, I have to make the fucking hottest and spiciest take that anyone could ever make. And then it just gets this kind of like snowball of negativity rolling, and it's really a big bummer, in my opinion, that that's the way things progress these days. And I feel like the timelines could have survived another 2 weeks to see if it needs nerfed, and I feel like it's something that could have really been adjusted towards in terms of the metas for the upcoming Runeterra Opens. And so I don't know, just a boomer with boomer opinions, Let me speak to your manager and stuff. Look at my boomer opinions out here. You want a job? Just go print out your resume and walk it up to the manager at the grocery store and say, "Hey, I've got a lot of gumption and a lot of go-getterness. I deserve it and stuff." So, just old, man. I don't even have TikTok on my phone. I don't have Instagram. I just I'm in the boomer state to where I don't share Facebook memes. Like I've pretty much removed Facebook from my life, and so I'm very limited in my my online social interactions. I got to get on the next one. I got to get on what's it called, the new distributed social media thing. I can't remember the name. We'll just call it Grinder. Gotta go out here and get on that. See if I can't make some new dude friends. I'm aware of what Grinder is. I'm not that old. I'm not gonna be in for a hot surprise when those nice young men are sending me messages. What is that? Mastodon. That was the one that was slipping my head. you can call it would a Freudian slip be the correct word when you're trying to look for Mastodon, but Grindr is the name of the name of the app that comes to mind. All right, though. Back to action in this game. I think we're okay. I think this game should probably be pretty done at this point, but we're battling. We're making it happen out here. Let's see what happens, what goes down. Sure, there's some blocks. 22 coming at you. He's only got 1 mana left. I feel like we're going to get it. I feel like we're going to win. That champion strength coming through for our last game, the last one to unlock victory with. Let's see if it's been done. Maybe opponent dropped their phone in the toilet as they note all the incoming damage rolling in. Alright, I bet this card's relevant. Oh, Ezreal flipped. Maybe we get killed from this point. You want a card to complain about? Ezreal. Ezreal is the one to complain about. You want the old man's opinion on the matter. Alright, but victory achieved. Victory unlocked. Not a bad set of games. We can pull this deck up and talk about it a little bit more. And so, you know, not that bad in concept. I think that was a pretty reasonable take on what was happening with the Altar of Unity deck. To me, the meta has to be fairly weird for this deck to really come out and thrive. It's tough in terms of like ladder to where the ladder environment is always so diverse. You probably won't run into the decks to where this is going to be exceptionally good very often, right? And the thing that you're kind of looking for is playing a deck like Elites, to where they're not going to be able to interact with what you're doing very well. They're just trying to put their mountain of stats on board, and you're able to go, okay, well, I can manage these combats so I'm not going to die. I can just prevent damage for a little bit, and then as soon as a big Mahari comes on board, you're just going to win the game. And so it's in kind of a weird space for decks like this. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that we've run into to where they fit in this spot in the meta to where they aren't particularly good against the aggro decks, right? They're a little bit too slow to be able to do battle against pirates or something, but they're definitely not good against the slower control decks of the format. You could see how well like Annie Katarina just rolled through everything that we're doing, in the sense that we're trying to play fairly slow and get this big engine-y kind of build up in the late game, and they're just playing even slower than we are, and we aren't aggressive enough to counteract their slowness. And so you have this space to where you can't beat the aggro decks and you can't beat the control decks, but you tend to be overwhelmingly powerful in that mid-rangey kind of space, right? If we're playing against not super interactive mid-rangey style decks and we can lock down their boards with the stuns and get a Mahari on board that can't be killed and stuff, then you're really in an opportunity to shine through and power through those matchups. And so in terms of making this be like a tier 1 deck, it's really going to be kind of meta dependent on that kind of thing happening. But, you know, you could certainly grind with this and ladder up with it and have some good success. I'm really kind of curious to see if anything comes out in the next set that really helps this along. And it's also kind of nice to think of this deck in terms of concurrent timelines and what you're trying to do. As you have units that come onto the board and have a generated effect, they tend to not have a lot of stats. So if you look at something like Lawkeeper, you're definitely expecting more than 9 stats out of a 6-cost unit. You should be getting at least like 12 or 14 or so. And so having units like this that generate some kind of ability that are also expensive is what you're going to be looking for out of the Altar of Unity. So look at a card, say like Revna, right? Revna coming on board as a 6/6, with her standard stat line of 2/2, that makes a lot of sense in that we're replacing the stats on a value generator with the altar immunity. And so, it'll be interesting to see if this can't shine through in a particular meta, but I'm hoping that we kind of touched on the things that may help you design a successful Altar of Unity deck. I like the Daybreak in the sense that it gives us a good early game to help shut down and slow down decks like Pirates, stall their game plan enough to where we can get this Mihari on board, and then we have a good collection of units that benefit from the altar between the Silverwing Vanguards, the Maharis, and the Lawkeepers, all getting a really big impact if the altar manages to land on board. And so, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. And so I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope we maybe learned a thing or two along the way, and you had a good time watching. So this is Bust, and we thank you for being here.